Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us for another edition of Science Meets Literature. This is the Portsmouth Public Library science program where we show you really cool science experiments, we show you how they work, the science behind them, and then we give you some awesome books to read if you want to do your own experiments. So today what we're going to be doing is making something called elephant toothpaste. And this is something that you've probably seen before. This is something that is a really popular demonstration. Steve Spangler is a science guy that on YouTube you can look up, and he does his own version of this. He uses a little bit stronger concentration of chemicals. We are going to do it a little bit safer, but I will tell you if you want to do it a little bit of a bigger explosion here, how to do that at the end, okay? So what we are going to be doing is we are going to first take a half of a cup of hydrogen peroxide. So we are using a more diluted version of hydrogen peroxide. This is hydrogen peroxide 3%. This is the kind that you put on like wounds that you get, or you need to clean out a cut or something. This is the kind that is safe for you to touch. I'm still using gloves just because it can dry your hands out. And I'm also going to be using safety goggles just because, again, it's not something you want to get in your eyes. If you want to do a larger version, you use 6%. Definitely use gloves and some kind of eye protection for that, because that can cause what we call like a base burn. All right, so what we are going to be doing is we're going to take a half of a cup of the 3% peroxide, and I've already put it into a 20-ounce pop water bottle, whatever you have. Now this can work in any container that you choose to use. You can put it in just, if you have a cup at home, you can do all this in a cup too. It's not particular. It's not like it won't work if you don't have it in a pop bottle, okay? So we're gonna put that. I recommend before you do this experiment, I'm doubling up on protection by having like a tablecloth and a pan here, but a pan will be enough, or if it's nice, do it outside, because this can kind of spill over. Okay, so we have a half a cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide, and you can see it in there. Then we're going to add in a tablespoon of dish soap. Any brand, any kind will do. I'm using a clear one because I'm going to add my own color later. If you use a blue one, it might have a little bit of a bluish tint to it when you do it, but it's totally up to you. Whatever you have, it'll still work no matter what. We're going to add that in. And you want to get as much of it in the bottle as you can. You know, it'll take its time pouring in there. The more soap that you can get in there of this tablespoon, the better. But if you get a little less or a little more, it really doesn't matter. It's not going to change the results of the experiment very much. All right, once we have our tablespoon of dish liquid in there, if you have the cap, you can go ahead and put the cap on, or just cover the top, because you do want to kind of shake this up. If you're doing this in a cup with a wide mouth, you can just stir it with a spoon, but you do want this to be pretty mixed up here. You can see right there, and we got a little bit of bubbles and stuff starting there too, okay? Next, what we're going to do is we are going to add in our food coloring. You don't have to do this step. If you want it to just be kind of white foam, that's fine. It'll still be cool. It just won't have the cool color effects. So I'm going to do two different colors here. And something that you can try to do at home is you can run one color down one side. And take another color and run it down the other side. And when the eruption happens, you'll see it will kind of tint it a little bit. Another good reason to wear gloves is you're not going to stain your hands. So, all right, next thing we have to do is prepare a separate mixture. We're going to take a small cup, and we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of warm water. You do want to make sure that it is at least warm, because we're also going to be adding in yeast. Yeast is a little microorganism that is actually going to cause this reaction to happen. If you don't have the yeast, this won't work. And you really want to do what's called activating or blooming your yeast. which when you put it in the warm water, it'll kind of come alive again and get active. And that's what we need it to do. So pour that in. You're going to take your 1 packet of yeast, just snip the side off. It's kind of grainy and granular, like salt. Pour that in and stir it for about 30 seconds. And then the consistency that you're going to get looks like melted ice cream. Okay, so you can see the texture here. I don't know if you can see it quite yet. It will be a beige kind of color, a tan, and you can see that it does sort of look like and have the texture of melted ice cream. It is a little frothy and a little bit thicker than normal water. Okay, once we have those two mixtures, all that you're going to do, and this is a time when if you have a funnel, this will work really well. You're going to add it into the mixture here, and then we're going to see the reaction happen. Okay, so and here is our elephant toothpaste. As you can see, it does come out quite a lot, and it'll keep coming for a little bit. This is why it's really important for you to have some kind of container down here to hold this mess in. If you do use 6% hydrogen peroxide, this will be much larger. Like I said, take it outside perhaps, or have a nice covering. So I don't know if you can see how much this is coming out, and you can see the kind of cool stripe effect we have. Kind of looks like real toothpaste. One thing that you'll notice, and we'll talk about here in just a second, is when you do feel the side of the container, or if you're using 3%, you can kind of feel, especially if you have gloves on, you can feel it sometimes will be warm, and we're going to explain why here in just a second. Okay, so we made our toothpaste. Still looks really cool. I mean, and you can even, this is something that you can pour out and play with and do all kinds of stuff. Like this is one of those, you can get your hands messy if you're using the 3% peroxide. It's just kind of fun. But let's explain the science behind it, because that's the real fun part, right? So, really simple terms, the yeast causes the peroxide to break apart into water and gas. When the gas is released, the soap bubbles up and it pours out of the top of the container. That's it. That's as simple as it can be. Of course, science is never that simple, so let me complicate things just a little bit. Peroxide is actually a chemical, and it's formed with hydrogen and oxygen, H2O2, okay? Yeast is a special type of, has a special type of chemical called catalase. Catalase just makes reactions happen and breaks things down. So the yeast breaks down the peroxide into its two parts. Like I already said, we have H2O, which is water, and we have O2, which is oxygen gas. Okay? So, a few things to note. Like I said before, when you touch this while the reaction's happening, you might feel that it's warm. That's because during this reaction, heat is also going to be on this side. It's going to be released while you're doing the reaction. Some reactions absorb heat and kind of cool down, and some warm up and release heat. This is called exothermic, when it is releasing heat. Another thing is really, like I said, you can touch this because the peroxide is broken down. So really we're just left with oxygen, water, and the foamy bubbles. So if you don't have the soap, this reaction will still happen. It'll still break down, but like I said, it's just making water, which will just stay in the bottom here, and it's making gas, which is invisible and will just come out the top. So it won't be cool looking, but it will still work. And this reaction is happening every day, all day, in your own body. Our bodies make peroxide when it breaks other things down. Peroxide is harmful to us. That's why we don't drink peroxide. It can make you very, very sick. But you have cells in your body that, just like yeast, have catalase that breaks those down into water and oxygen, which our body can use. So this is an experiment that happens every day in your own body. So it's really cool to kind of see that right in front of us. All right, guys, join us next time for Science Meets Literature. Thank you so much for joining us this time. And if you want to check out any of these cool books that we have here, or any of the books that you'll see in the shot, feel free. You can come into the Portsmouth Public Library or any of the branches, and we can get you these books or other books. We would love to hook you up with your favorite read. Have a great one.